few months ago, I was working late in my small apartment. The clock ticked past midnight. My computer screen glowed in the dark. I often liked the quiet of the night, but that night felt different. I felt anxious. Still, I pushed through my work. I was searching for inspiration on some obscure forums when I found a thread about local urban legends. My fingers hesitated over the keyboard. I felt a shiver, but I ignored it. I clicked through some links, curious. One story grabbed my attention. A haunting account of a missing couple from my neighborhood. My heart raced. The couple had vanished just a couple of blocks away. I kept reading despite the chill creeping over me. In the following nights, I couldn't let go of that story. The more I read, the more unsettled I became. I stumbled upon tales of strange sightings and cryptic symbols in my area. Each word had my heart pounding. Deep down, I knew I should stop, but I couldn't. The line between reality and paranoia started to blur. Soon, the messages began. It started with comments on my posts. They were anonymous. "Do you see them? They are watching you." I felt cold, a shiver racing down my spine. I thought about reporting it to the police, but I worried they'd think I was crazy. I kept digging. I was trapped in that rabbit hole. One night, I saw something outside my window. A figure stood there staring up at my apartment. I peeked through the curtains. My heart hammered in my chest. The man wore dark clothes. I could just see his face, illuminated by the street lamp. He didn't move. I felt frozen, debating whether to call for help or just watch. Was I imagining it? The messages grew bolder. They mentioned my name, my work. One message said, "You should stop looking." Another simply warned, "You're not safe." I felt a tingle at the back of my neck. I didn't know if someone was watching me or if it was my imagination. I thought about shutting down my computer, going to bed. But something pulled me back to the screen. I felt trapped. One night, I clicked on a link that said, "Discover the truth." My stomach twisted. I braced myself. As the page loaded, dread washed over me. What I found made my skin crawl. There was a map of my neighborhood. It showed symbols marking places I had never noticed before. They were scattered all over the area. My hands shook as I scrolled down and read more. The symbols looked familiar in a strange way, but I couldn't place them. As I read on, a sudden chill cut through the room. Then I heard a tapping sound. It came from the window. My heart stopped. I turned slowly, expecting someone to be there. But the window was dark and empty. I felt sick. Was I going crazy? I didn't know what to think anymore. I shut my laptop and pushed it away. Something was wrong, really wrong. But part of me wanted to go back. It was like a dark force was pulling me in. I just sat there, feeling more lost than ever. What had I started? The next morning, I woke up feeling groggy and restless. I had barely slept. I couldn't shake off that feeling, the worry that whatever I had stumbled upon was very real. I needed to clear my head. Maybe I'd find answers if I went outside. After a quick breakfast, I grabbed my jacket and hesitated by the door. Should I really go out? But the curiosity gnawed at me more than the fear. I stepped outside, the sun shining bright against the blue sky, a stark contrast to the darkness from the night before. I walked around my neighborhood, past familiar streets and shops. I felt out of place, as if my own home was now foreign. I made my way to the park where the couple had last been seen. The area was fairly quiet, save for a few kids playing nearby. I wandered along the path, scanning the trees and benches, thinking about the markings from the map. Did any of these symbols have a connection? Then I noticed something on the ground, a piece of paper sticking out from under a bench. My heart quickened. I approached cautiously and crouched down to retrieve it. The paper was crumpled, but I could make out some unusual symbols drawn across it. I felt that creeping anxiety again. Was this part of the mystery? Had someone else been searching? Just then, a noise made me turn. A man was standing a short distance away watching me. He wore dark clothes and a sun hat, shades blocking his eyes. My breath caught in my throat. The man seemed familiar, and panic flickered in my mind. Was he the figure from my window? I forced myself to look away. Ignoring it would only make things worse. I couldn't let fear dictate my actions. I gathered the paper and slipped it into my pocket. I turned to walk away, but the man stepped forward. "Hey," he called out. "You found something, didn't you?" I froze. This man knew I had something. My instincts screamed at me to run, to leave this place and never look back, but I didn't want to seem guilty. I turned back slowly, my voice shaky. "It's nothing. Just a piece of paper." He closed the distance quickly, his expression unreadable. "You should be careful with that. You don't know what it is." A slight smile tugged at his lips, but it didn't seem friendly. "I don't want any trouble," I said, trying to back away. "That's what they all say." His eyes glinted with something I couldn't decipher. Before I could reply, a loud screech echoed through the park, drawing our attention away. The sound came from the distance, but I couldn't make sense of it. In that moment of distraction, the man shifted, a flicker of annoyance crossing his face. He hesitated as if he were deciding his next move. Then, without warning, he turned abruptly and walked away, disappearing behind the trees. I felt my heart pound. Something wasn't right. I glanced down at the paper in my pocket. Whatever I had found, it was more than just a random coincidence. I had to figure this out. But as I walked back home, the feeling of being watched returned. I glanced over my shoulder. I was still in the light of day, but I couldn't shake the sensation that the shadows were watching me now more than ever, and that ominous warning echoed in my mind. "You should be careful with that." I hurried home, but my mind was racing. What had I really uncovered? Was this just the beginning? As soon as I got inside, I felt that heavy knot of anxiety return. I couldn't let it go. I needed to know more. I spent the next hour pacing around my small apartment. The paper felt like a weight in my pocket. I finally pulled it out again, spreading it out on the table. The symbols were almost mesmerizing, swirling lines and shapes that seemed to dance across the crumpled surface. I took a photo with my phone, hoping to look them up later. But where could I start? I felt like I was stumbling around in the dark. The couple that had gone missing, the man from the park, and now this paper. All of it felt connected somehow. I grabbed my laptop and began to search for information on the couple. But every website led to the same few articles repeating the same chilling details. There had been no leads, just speculation and unanswered questions. After a while, I tried looking for the symbols. I typed them into every search engine I could think of. Most results were about ancient cultures or myths. I was about to give up when a forum caught my eye. It was filled with threads discussing strange sightings and happenings in my area. Many posts referenced symbols similar to the ones on my paper. I leaned in closer, reading about people who claimed to have seen strange things, figures moving in the shadows, odd noises, and more. As I scrolled, I stumbled upon a post from a user named Seeker. They claimed to have recognized the symbols as part of a local legend, a series of markings believed to guide people to hidden places. Hidden places? My stomach dropped. This sounded eerily close to my own discoveries. Just as I was about to read more, a loud knock echoed through my apartment. I jumped, my heart racing. I had no idea who it could be. Cautiously, I walked toward the door and peered through the peephole. It was him, the man from the park. My breath caught in my throat. What did he want? Did he know where I lived? I backed away from the door, but then I heard it again, the knock. This time it was more insistent. "Hey, I know you're in there." I felt panic rise inside me. My first instinct was to call for help, but who would I even call? I was alone, surrounded by uncertainty. "What do you want?" I managed to yell, hoping to buy some time. "Let's talk. I just want to help you." His voice was calm, but I knew better. Maybe it was foolish, but I couldn't just let him in. I glanced around for something I could use for protection. My eyes landed on a kitchen knife lying on the counter. Then I suddenly remembered the other door, the back entrance to the apartment. I quietly moved toward it, heart racing. If I could slip out unnoticed, maybe I could get the police, or at least a neighbor. I reached for the knob, but before I could turn it, the knocking turned to pounding. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be," his voice boomed. That's when I saw it, a flash of movement outside my window. Someone was in my backyard. My breath quickened. Who were they? More importantly, were they with him? I needed to decide quickly. I could either confront him or make a run for it. The pressure in the room felt heavy, my instinct screaming at me to choose wisely. I stood frozen by the back door, my decision looming like a dark cloud. The pounding at the front intensified, matching the rapid beat of my heart. Panic tugged at my thoughts. I was unarmed, on my own, and surrounded, except for the door behind me. Taking a deep breath, I turned the knob slowly, hoping it wouldn't squeak. I wanted to slip out unnoticed. I opened the door a crack, peering into the shadows of my backyard. It was dark, littered with garden tools, but I couldn't see who, or what, was out there. I could hear the man still at the front. "Come on! I can help you!" His voice was unnervingly patient. "You don't know what you're dealing with." I pressed the back door open just wide enough to wiggle through. Once outside, I felt the cool night air wash over me. My instincts kicked in. I stepped quietly, scanning the area for any sign of that mysterious figure. I knew I needed to be careful. I couldn't draw attention to myself. Suddenly, I noticed a flicker of movement near my fence. My heart raced as I crept closer, holding my breath. I peered around the corner. There it was, a figure, cloaked in dark clothing, crouching low, searching for something. My hands trembled at my sides, adrenaline flooding my system. "Who are you?" I whispered, unsure if I should sound firm or just keep my voice low. I didn't want to startle them into turning on me. The figure turned, showing me a masked face. My breath caught. "You need to get out of here," they said, their voice muffled. "He's not what he seems." "What do you mean?" I asked, my heart pounding louder than before. "Just trust me. I can explain, but we don't have much time." They glanced back toward the house. "We need to go now." Instinctively, I stepped back, the fear of the unknown overwhelming me. "How do I know I can trust you?" They raised their hands, palms open. "Because he's been watching you. He wants something, and it isn't just a conversation." That realization knocked the breath out of me. Why was this happening? I had only scratched the surface of the symbols and the couple's disappearance. I didn't want to get any deeper, but I felt trapped. I could already hear the man growing more impatient at the front. A thought flared in my mind. "What do you know about the couple?" The figure hesitated, visibly conflicted. "I know where they went. But if we stay out here, you'll end up like them." A sense of urgency swirled in the air like a storm. I had to make a choice. The man was still at the front, but fear twisted in my gut. Could I really trust this stranger? Before I could respond, the figure stepped closer, voice low. "You need to decide. Stay, and you'll face him, or come with me and uncover the truth." I took one last glance toward the front of my building, where that steady pounding still echoed. The decision weighed heavily on my shoulders. "Okay, let's go," I finally said, my voice trembling with uncertainty. "Good choice," they replied, before we slipped into the shadows, leaving everything behind. As we moved through the darkness, I felt a surge of dread and thrilling curiosity. I had no idea where this would lead, but it felt inevitable. We were already deep in something dangerous, and there was no turning back now. We sprinted through my backyard, the cool grass brushing against my ankles. I glanced over my shoulder, half expecting to see that man from the front door racing after us. The figure beside me moved swiftly, guiding me toward the edge of the yard, away from the faint glow of my house. "Keep low," they urged, and I crouched instinctively. As we neared the fence line, I spotted the exit point where the wood was splintered. It felt like a passageway into another world. Once we had slipped through, I found myself in a narrow alley that ran between the back of my house and the neighbors. It was quiet here, but I could feel tension in the stillness. The figure led me farther down the alley, their dark clothes blending into the night. "Who are you?" I asked again, trying to gather my racing thoughts into something coherent. "I'll explain later. We need to put distance between us and him," they replied, eyes scanning our surroundings. "He's not just a man. He's part of something bigger." The words sent a chill down my spine. I had suspected as much. I wasn't ready to dive into a conspiracy, but everything felt urgent. "What does he want?" I don't know all the details, but he believes you have something he needs, they said, the frustration evident in their voice. My confusion mounted. What could I possibly have? They paused, looking directly at me. Your curiosity is dangerous. It's led you to uncover things that should have remained hidden. We stopped at the mouth of the alley, and they pulled their mask down slightly, revealing dark, sharp features, but not enough to recognize them. I know you've been looking into the couple who disappeared. That's where it begins. I felt a jolt of recognition. You know about them. They were part of this too, they whispered, glancing down the street. And if he gets to you first? Their voice trailed off, a look of fear flashing across their face. What happens if he gets to me? I pushed. He will make you forget everything. You'll become part of his shadow. Before I could fully process that, I heard a sound from the far end of the street. Heavy footsteps echoed against the pavement. My heart raced as I dimly remembered the sound of that man pounding at my door. Let's go, the figure urged, grabbing my arm. We took off down the street, adrenaline pumping. The sounds behind me faded into the distance, but I kept glancing back, half expecting him to emerge from the darkness. I could feel a weight on my chest, the fear of not knowing what would happen next. Suddenly a harsh light shone from behind us, illuminating the street. My heart sank. We need to hide, I hissed, looking around wildly. There was nowhere to go. Over there! The figure pointed to a small doorway in an old brick building that looked abandoned. With no time to think, we darted toward it. We squeezed through the door, just as the light swept past us. The sudden darkness enveloped us. I could barely breathe. I heard footsteps stop outside and I held my breath. What if he followed us in? Then everything went still. I strained to hear anything over the pounding of my heart. The figure beside me was visibly tense, waiting, just as I was. I couldn't shake the feeling that we were trapped. That's when I heard a voice from outside. It had a low, menacing tone. You can't hide forever. I know you're in there. The echo of his voice sent shivers down my spine, and I realized this was just the beginning. We were about to uncover something much bigger and darker than I ever imagined. The silence felt thick, almost suffocating. I pressed myself closer to the wall, trying to blend into the shadows. My mind raced. I had never felt so vulnerable, so exposed. What do we do now? I whispered, my voice barely escaping my throat. The figure shifted, their sharp features momentarily illuminated by a sliver of moonlight that pierced through a crack in the old bricks. We wait. He'll think we're long gone. They were breathing heavily, too. I could sense their tension, and it made me uneasy. Moments felt like hours as we stood in the cramped space. All I could hear was the distant sound of the man's footsteps, pacing outside the building. Where did he come from? I asked, trying to keep my mind off the fear gripping my heart. He's part of a group, the figure said quietly, glancing toward the door. They track people who show interest in forbidden things. You've uncovered a trail that you shouldn't have. My stomach churned. What does that even mean? They held up a hand to stop my questions. Shh. I think he's gone. There was a pause, a moment of silence, and then the footsteps resumed, this time moving away. Relief washed over me, but it was short-lived. Now we have to find a way out of here, they said, looking around. We need to get to a safe place. I nodded, feeling the urgency in their tone. How do we do that? They pointed to a nearby window. We can climb out. It's a long drop, but we have no choice. As we made our way to the window, a voice from outside cut through the air again. Do you really think you can escape? You have no idea what you're involved in. My heart dropped. I looked at the figure beside me, panic creeping in. They know we're still here. They can't come in without attracting attention. We have time, they assured me. But we need to move quickly. I gulped, bracing myself against the window frame. Okay, let's do this. With my heart in my throat, I squeezed through the opening, landing hard on the ground outside. I turned to help my companion, and just as they were about to join me, there was a loud crash behind us. The door to the building burst open, and the figure of the man loomed in the doorway, silhouetted against the light spilling from inside. "There you are," he said, a chilling smile on his lips. I couldn't believe it. We had just escaped, and now he was right there. "Run!" I shouted, instinct taking over. We sprinted down the alley, the echo of our footsteps mingling with his laughter. Just when I thought we could gain distance, I heard the sound of tires screeching. A car turned the corner, blocking our path. "What now?" I panted, panic rising again. "Follow me!" the figure shouted, darting toward a narrow side street. We had no choice. I followed, though my legs felt like lead. The adrenaline surged through my veins, but the fear didn't leave. I had to know what was happening. "Wait," I gasped, trying to catch my breath. "What do you mean, forbidden things? What did I uncover?" "That's for later. Right now we have to survive," they said, urgency in their voice. It was evident they were terrified too. I could see the tension in their eyes. We were running from something far worse than just a strange man. But then, as we turned into the shaded street, I saw something that made my blood run cold. The figure paused, their expression shifting from determination to complete horror. "That can't be," they whispered, pointing. I followed their gaze and froze. There, in front of an old crumbling wall covered in graffiti, was a symbol I recognized. The same one from the files about the couple who had disappeared. The realization hit me like a slap. I had unwittingly stumbled into something much larger than myself. And now, catching my breath, I wondered, what did it all mean? The alley was dim, shadows creeping in from every side. I felt the weight of fear settle over me. "What is that symbol?" I asked, my voice trembling. The figure beside me stepped back, eyes wide. "It's a marker," they whispered, fear lacing their words. "It signifies territory. Territory of something dangerous." My mind raced. Dangerous how? Those who draw that symbol are part of a cult. They believe in the power of secret knowledge, and they'll do anything to protect it. I swallowed hard, my stomach churning. And I uncovered it. "What does that mean for me?" The figures shook their head, panic etched across their face. "We can't stay here. They might come looking for you. We need to find a safe house." Nausea roiled within me as we turned to continue running. "How did you even know about me?" I didn't know what I stumbled upon. "I've been tracking them," they replied, darting glances over their shoulder. I didn't think they'd connect the dots so quickly. We ducked behind a dumpster as a light swept through the alley. The sound of footsteps returned, louder now, each step coming closer. My heart raced. "What do we do? They'll find us." "We wait for him to pass, then we go. There's a tunnel nearby that leads to safety," they said, pressing a finger to their lips. I nodded, but dread twisted in my chest. I had no idea how they knew all this, or who they really were. Just as I was about to ask more, a figure appeared at the end of the alley, wearing dark clothes and a hood. "Where are you?" the man shouted. His voice bounced off the walls. I could see the figure beside me tense. "Let's go!" We darted away from our hiding spot, sprinting down the alley away from the light. I couldn't help but glance back. The man had started moving toward us, fire igniting in his eyes. He knew we were close. "Faster!" my companion urged, pulling me to run harder. The tunnel came into view, a dark maw in the brick wall. I didn't hesitate and dove inside, my companion following closely behind. The air was damp and musty. I could hear water dripping, echoing in the dark. Once we were deep enough inside, I finally caught my breath. "What now?" The figure pulled out a small flashlight, illuminating the path ahead. "We have to keep moving. The tunnel will take us under the city." "Under the city? How do you know about this place?" I asked. "I've lived in these shadows long enough," they replied, a frown replacing their earlier panic. "This is their underground route. They use it to avoid being tracked." Just then, the ground beneath us began to tremble. A low rumble filled the air, and the flashlight flickered as if responding to the disturbance. "What was that?" I gasped. "An entrance collapse, maybe," they murmured, panic creeping back into their voice. "We need to hurry before—" Before they could finish, the ceiling above us gave a shuddering crack, and dust rained down around us. I felt a surge of dread as I realized we might be trapped. "Run!" I yelled, feeling a surge of adrenaline push me forward. Beneath the fear, there was a gnawing curiosity about the truth that lay ahead. And at that moment, I was desperate to find out what it all meant, even if it meant facing whatever awaited in the darkness. I stumbled deeper into the tunnel, my heart pounding in my ears. My companion grabbed my arm, guiding me along the uneven ground. "Stay close," they urged. The flashlight flickered again, casting long shadows that twisted like fingers reaching for us. The rumbling continued, a menacing reminder that the world above us was crumbling. "Why is it shaking?" I gasped, looking around as though something might emerge from the dark. "We're under an old subway line. It's unstable," they replied, their voice strained with urgency. "But we have to keep moving." Something inside me twisted. What if there's a collapse? What if we get trapped? I couldn't shake the feeling that we were running straight into danger. "We have no choice. If we stop, they'll find us," they said, a fierce determination in their eyes. I hated how close the truth was yet out of reach. I felt like I was running from something unseen, something terrible that I couldn't comprehend. I wanted to ask more questions, but I held back. I couldn't let fear paralyze me. As we ran, the tunnel began to branch off in different directions. My companion halted and pointed the flashlight down one of the paths. "This way!" I hesitated for a second, glancing back in the darkness. "What if we go the wrong way?" "We won't. Trust me." Their voice held a note of certainty I desperately needed. "Can you even see anything?" I asked, as a creeping doubt tugged at my resolve. "Just enough." Another rumble echoed, louder this time, shaking the tunnel's walls. Dust fell from above, and I felt the panic return. "We have to move now." I pushed ahead, following the beam of the flashlight. Suddenly, I noticed symbols carved into the walls, similar to the one I had seen in the alley. My pulse quickened as the implications clawed at my mind. What are those?" "They're the same. Markings from the cult," my companion answered, their voice tense. "They've been here. If they know we're in the tunnels, they'll come for us." My stomach dropped at the realization. I was in their territory, the heart of where they operated. Every shadow felt like it was watching us. Then I spotted something glimmering on the ground. I knelt down, instinctively brushing dust off it. It was a small pendant, intricately designed with the same symbol from the alley. "What is this doing here?" I whispered. "It's a calling card," they said, urgency etched across their face. "They leave them for a reason, to mark their path." I held it tightly, panic mixing with intrigue. "But why? What does it mean?" Before they could answer, the ground shook again, this time sending us to our knees. I felt a wave of terror wash over me. "What's happening?" The darkness around us began to shift, and I caught a glimpse of movement, figures emerging from the shadows. Panic surged through me as I realized we were not alone. "We need to run!" I shouted, scrambling to my feet. The figures drew closer, their faces obscured, but their presence was suffocating. "Now!" my companion echoed, and I took off, clutching the pendant like a lifeline as we plunged deeper into the darkness, desperate to escape whatever horror awaited us. I don't know how long we ran, but the darkness felt eternal. The flicker of the flashlight was our only guide, illuminating the narrow walls cluttered with the same disturbing symbols. I could hear my breath rising in tempo, matching the urgent pounding of my heart. Every shadow flitted in and out of my vision, and I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Behind me, the figures were growing closer. I could hear their whispers, muffled, but charged with a sense of purpose. "They'll find us," I said, dread creeping into my voice. "What do they want?" "They want control," my companion replied, never faltering in their sprint. "They'll do anything to keep their secrets hidden." My mind raced. Control over what? I didn't have the strength to voice my questions. Something in their tone suggested we were embroiled in something much larger than we understood. Suddenly, my foot caught on something, perhaps a loose rock or a piece of debris. I stumbled, my hands shooting out to break my fall. The pendant slipped from my grasp, skittering away into the shadows. "No!" I scrambled to retrieve it, but the darkness felt oppressive. Sweat trickled down my back as I groped around frantically. I could hear my companions stop, the panic resonating in their voice. "We can't stop. You need to get up." "I can't," I managed, fighting the urge to give in to despair. Then, I saw it. The pendant gleaming faintly in the beams of the flashlight. I lunged for it, my fingers grazing the cool metal. Just as I grasped it, a shadow loomed over me, dark and imposing. "Run!" I shouted, scrambling backward. I felt the presence glide past me, the design of the symbol carved into the walls almost coming alive in the flickering light. My companion grabbed my wrist, pulling me to my feet. "We have to keep going." Their voice was fierce, filled with an urgency only fear could breed. As we dashed down the tunnel, everything seemed to blur. The echoes of our footsteps were drowned by the roaring vibrations of the ground. Each tremor felt like a warning. "Where do we go now?" I yelled over the noise, desperation clenching my chest. "There's a junction up ahead," they shouted back, leading us toward a fork in the tunnel. "We can hide there. It's a dead end. Maybe we can lose them." I pushed myself harder, my lungs burning as we turned the corner. We skidded to a stop. The flashlight flickered once more, revealing the junction, a narrow passage leading into deeper darkness. Before we could decide, a figure appeared at the opposite end, cloaked in shadow, an unsettling calmness shrouding them. My heart sank as recognition flooded through me. "It's one of them." "What do we do?" my companion whispered, confused fear creeping into their voice. Just then, everything went dark. The flashlight blinked out, leaving us in pitch blackness. I felt the panic rising. Was this it? Before I could wrap my head around it, the chilling sound of chanting filled the air. The figures were closing in, their voices melding into a spine-tingling rhythm. It was seductive and terrifying, the language foreign, yet oddly familiar. I clutched the pendant tight, its cold metal grounding me. Whatever they wanted, they were going to get it. The walls seemed to close in around us, the shadows of the cult encroaching. "Something's coming," I whispered, the weight of dread settling heavily on my chest. The chanting intensified, and as I took a step back, I stumbled again. My foot hit something solid. A door. In a panic, I reached for it. "We have to get out." Then I pushed, and the door swung open, revealing a blinding light. I stumbled through the doorway, footsteps heavy and uncertain. Light enveloped us, a stark contrast to the darkness of the tunnels and the malevolence we had left behind. I hardly had time to regain my senses before the door slammed shut behind us, plunging me into a suffocating silence. "What just happened?" I gasped, trying to catch my breath. The intensity of my panic still lingered, but the immediate danger felt momentarily silenced. My eyes adjusted, revealing an old underground chamber, illuminated by flickering lanterns hung on uneven walls. The symbols I had seen before seemed to pulse in the dimness, a strange energy filling the air. "We might be safe for now," my companion said, their voice steady but laced with urgency. But not for long. I looked around, noticing shelves filled with peculiar artifacts and faded texts, remnants of a past shrouded in mystery. "Is this their storehouse?" I wondered aloud, scanning the room for clues. "More like a sanctuary," they replied, the grim seriousness in their tone warning me to tread carefully. "But they'll know we're here soon. We need to find a way out." Sweat beaded on my forehead as the weight of revelation settled heavily in my chest. "What are they after?" I asked, searching their impassive gaze for answers. "Control, power, things we can only fathom. Those symbols, they mark paths to ancient knowledge, things that shouldn't be uncovered," they replied, their voice barely above a whisper. "And they think you hold the key." The implications twisted my mind into knots. Me? A key? I was just an ordinary person who had stumbled into this chaos out of curiosity. How do they think I've got something? The question tumbled out before I could stop it. I needed clarity. "Your research, your attention. You're part of a pattern now, whether you intended to be or not," they said, turning away to examine an old book that lay precariously on a table. "We need to find a map, something to show us an exit." I searched the chamber, my hands trembling slightly as I ran my fingers over the artifacts. Each object felt like history, teetering on the edge of revelation and peril. But the weight of being watched pressed on me as I delved deeper into the room's secrets. Then, a strange noise broke the silence. A soft whisper rising from behind me. I spun around, my heart racing, My companion's face had drained of color. "They're coming," they hissed, rushing towards the far wall. "What do we do?" I panicked, scanning the edges of the room for safety, feeling the darkness creeping in even as the lanterns offered their feeble illumination. "Over here!" They pulled aside a tapestry, revealing a small passage behind it, almost swallowed by shadow. My blood ran cold. Without questioning, we squeezed through, the confined space forcing us into uncomfortable closeness. I could hear the chanting begin again, echoing from beyond. We crawled through the darkness, the scent of damp earth surrounding us. As we pressed onward, the sound of footsteps grew fainter, trailing farther behind us. But still, dread gnawed at the edges of my thoughts. What awaited us on the other side? Finally, light flickered in the distance, urging me forward. It broke through the stone walls, beckoning me to escape this hidden maze. I felt the presence of my companion right beside me. "We're almost there," they whispered, a glimmer of hope shining in their eyes. As we emerged from the passage, I felt an unknown force pushing us forward, the ambiance shifting as we stepped into an open space, what seemed like an abandoned courtyard, but the air was thick with tension. Shadows lingered just beyond our reach, hints of movement stirring among the remnants of twisted branches. The world above us pulsed with the same foreboding energy that surrounded me in the darkness. We rushed towards an old gate, its metal rusted but still standing firm. "We'll get through this," I said, though doubt gnawed at my insides. I fumbled to push it open. As it creaked and shifted, I felt the chill of being pursed, a dark specter looming just out of sight. What if they catch us? I hesitated, fear carving deep lines in my mind. My heart hammered as I braced myself for the unknown. "They won't," my companion insisted, their voice steady. But I feel the tremor beneath. But even as hardships towered around us, the possibility of escape shimmered ahead. I pushed through the gate. The heavy weight of a chase still lingered, but so did the hope of a new beginning, somewhere far from this realm of secrecy. I took a deep breath, embracing the wild freedom that beckoned beyond the gate. Yet I knew the danger could follow us just as easily. "I don't want to run anymore," I whispered. The air sparkled with uncertainty. Faint echoes of the place we left behind haunted me. Whatever lay in front of us might hold answers, or lead us deeper into an unseen abyss. The questions remained unanswered, taunting me with their very existence, but I pressed on in search of the truth or comfort, uncertain of where it would lead. Sometimes I wonder if the shadows were really closing in, or if I had just stumbled into the wrestling match between curiosity and fear. There might never be a clean escape. The answer asked for me might just reveal an even darker mystery waiting to unravel.